Hey guys, my name is Jason Trout, and I'm the other half of the Oklahoma City office for Shopping Pal. So Polka told you a little bit about Shopping Pal, but essentially what Shopping Pal does is it helps drive consumer engagement and loyalty at retail stores. So one of my unfortunate jobs is to reach out to those retail stores. Does anyone like cold calling? No. No, okay. There's two people with problems in here. It's not... It's not fun, right? So, but that is definitely one of my jobs, and it can be very critical to the success of a startup or just staying alive as a new business, right? So hopefully some of these things will help along the way if anyone does have to do cold calling. So the first thing to do is do it less. Try to do these other things that's going to help you not have to be on the phone, right? So establish those key partnerships that's going to help you get in front of customers. Create good content so people actually come to you first before you have to reach out to them. And actually be good at what you do so you can benefit a little bit from word of mouth. But those things right there are a little bit more long-term, right? So that's why cold calling does have its place. And even good successful companies that are doing these things right, they still rely on cold calling. I know we have some former Paycom guys in here, so I mean they do tons of cold calling. That's still a big part of how they get new business. So the next thing is try to make it not so cold, right? So prepare for that call and make sure you know what the outcome should be of that call. Do you want to sell a widget on the first call, or are you trying to set up a meeting? In our case, we're trying to set up a live demo for these retail stores to learn more about Shopping Pal. Next, actually physically write a script. It's not for just a bunch of inside salespeople to have a script, but actually write it down. It helps you focus on what exactly you're going to say and make sure you say the right things in a very short amount of time. Of course, you have to know a little bit about them, do some research, and know what they're doing so you can talk specifics about how you can actually help them. If you don't know how you're going to help them, the call is probably not going to go that well. And it goes without saying, but make sure that you're talking to the decision maker. You don't want to waste a lot of time with someone that can't actually tell you yes or no. Okay, so I'm going to try to get you, go back one slide real quick. Okay, so I'm going to try to get you to get out of a few calls, and that's by emailing first. So that could be the only cold call you have to do, right? They could reply to that and you could be rolling. But let's say they don't reply, right? That's fine, because that means when you call them, there's a chance that they already know who you are. So that's definitely going to help. And on that email, definitely be direct. Don't have a long-winded email saying everything you do. Be fairly direct, and if you want a meeting, say that in the first sentence. And if you want a meeting, tell them exactly what time. Don't ask them if they have time next week. Ask them if they have time Tuesday at 11 a.m., okay? Now, there's another strategy there. Do the exact opposite of what I just said. Let me give you an example. Do you guys know who Warby Parker is? They're an eyewear company, right? Okay, so they're pretty hot right now. They're doing really well. They just opened a store in a cool Soho shopping district in New York City, right? It's getting a lot of press right now because they're doing some really cool things inside the store with technology. They're able to look at in-store analytics and the shopper flow, and they can tell when someone picks up glasses off the shelf and puts it back. All kinds of real cool stuff that they're doing in a store. So we wanted to talk to them. We wanted a meeting with them, but instead of just going to them and saying, "Hey, want to talk about Shopping Pal?" we took a little bit of a different approach here. We said, "Hey, you guys are doing some really cool stuff in this new store. We want to talk to you about you. We want to know what kind of analytics that you're looking at." And just talk about you. They have a cool, mobile POS that they're using. We want to talk about them. So we got our foot in the door. Will anything come out of it? I don't know. The meeting's next week, but at least we got that initial meeting and we can talk about ourselves, right? Okay, one more thing on email before you call. Seriously, right? You don't want to pick up that phone. This triples my response rate. I send that initial email, I might not get a response. A few days later, a week later, I reply to that exact same email with one line question. It could be a few different things, but it's one line, so it's easy for them to reply to. They don't have to internalize your entire email. They know that they can act on something that's very, very quick. So just ask them something simple like, "Hey, do you think that there may be a fit? Or does that time work for you? Or did you get my freaking email?" Something that they can reply to really quick, right? And that always is a heck of a lot better response rate than the initial email, so definitely do that. Okay, now on to the call. You actually have to make the call now. Something that helps me is actually getting into a rhythm, not spreading it out the entire day, but doing it all at one time. If you're doing it over and over and over, you start sounding a heck of a lot better, and you sound like you know what you're talking about, right? Next, so I told you to write the script, but don't read the damn thing. That's only for your reference, right? And make sure that you're going to cover the key things that you want to cover in that call. The thing that screams a sales call is saying, hey, how are you doing today? It's a stranger. Like, they don't want to tell you how they're doing today. Get to the point and just say, I'm calling because X, right? And stop selling so much. You don't have to sell your company and say how great you are, or you want to offer them a free consultation. A free consultation, like, who cares, right? That's a part of your job. Be real with them and just say, hey, I want to run this by you. I want to tell you what we're doing to see if it's a fit for you, or let me run some numbers by you. Just be a little bit more personal with it. Usually, if you've talked to them a couple of times and the response is always they're too busy, they're probably not interested. So know when it's time to move on. Now, having said that, 80% of your new sales are going to come after the 4th or 5th contact. So don't give up on try one, but just know when it's time to move on to someone that's actually going to say yes or no and not drag it along over several months of reaching out to them. Lastly, take notes so you can continue to improve what you're saying and you can get better results. Now, after the call, it doesn't matter if you talk to them or not, follow up with an email. If you actually talk to them, of course, follow up and tell them what you talked about and the next steps, if there's a time for a meeting and so on. Continue to revise your script and get better and better at it to have better results, and be prepared to call that exact same guy next week. That's it. Thanks.